Since nuclear and biological weaponry has the potential to wipe out humanity altogether, and interestingly, humanity's end has been predicted in our holy books, I believe this may not be brought on by our spiritual God but by us being brainwashed into believing in our group politics. Remember, in the last thousands of years, our knowledge of God has not changed simply because we have been told that we all have to die before we can find out. This means we have no idea why we kill each other in the name of God. We need to evolve in all departments of life equally so we can understand our emotions as well as we understand our nuclear weaponry. This way, we can clearly see the politics behind our nationalism and religious beliefs. Personally, I believe we cannot learn anything about our individual spirituality unless we can individually separate the politics of belonging to our groups from our personal and individual spiritual beliefs. If you want to look at the causes of the high number of religions and their sects, disputes, and wars, you need to put the politics of belonging to your group aside and see what happens to you. This will free you to look beyond your emotional or hormonally influenced political belonging. You will be able to see why our religious wars have always been an ongoing process throughout the history of humanity. Technologically, we have a lot of evolution and progress to show, but not a lot of understanding regarding our emotional belonging to nationalism and religions. Humanity has an imbalance related to evolution. The question is why we are lagging behind, especially when it comes to accepting that all human beings are equal and even human beings. The simple answer is individual weakness, and the brainwashing power in the hands of our groups. Ever wonder why most, if not all, human societies have court systems? And why, as human individuals, we are all responsible for our physical actions? Question yourself and see what you come up with. Logically, if you remove the spiritual content of a human individual, which allows us to become and be acknowledged as a human being, someone who takes responsibility for personal actions, uses free will, has a personal sense of justice, and is blessed with the abilities to be compassionate and loving, you are left with only your physical makeup. Interestingly, even at those points, everything points towards equality. We all need oxygen to experience this mortal life, we need water, food, and love to survive. Yet we are taught to believe in robbing each other of all that. Remember, we are all born the same way, get sick, age, and die the same way. We are all born with the ability to use free will, which helps us choose. We all have a personal sense of justice and the ability to use compassion and love. Sure, we could be affected by the level of education, life circumstances, love loss, and political influences. Interestingly, regardless of all that, we are still responsible for our physical actions. If we allow our groups to use us as their political puppets, we are responsible for that as well. To me, as human individuals, we all have the abilities to sift through all political influences and understand what we hold within as human individuals. That can only happen if we are spiritually whole and grounded at our individual level. Remember, our groups still believe in their politics of killing and dominating each other as if we are still living in the bush and caves. To evolve from all that, we individually have to protect and grow our spirituality. Regardless of individual understanding of the dangers of modern-day war weaponry, why are we emotionally still trying to live like other creatures or like our ancestors who did not have today's technology? Nor were their populations seeking equal human rights like in today's time. Interestingly, if we are fighting over religious beliefs we can't physically explain or fully understand, what are we really fighting over? I am going to say it as it is, in clear and easily understandable words. Logically, if you can't come back and explain what happens after we die because we have to die first to find that out, it means if we kill each other over it, that would be related to our individual ignorance. So, we should not kill each other over our incomplete knowledge or for political reasons. In the end, By giving us free will, God made us responsible for our personal actions. I believe it's time for us human beings to evolve beyond our hormones related to political influences. I personally believe in God and the afterlife as well, but I keep my priorities and realities straight. I believe my living years are my physical reality, and after I die, I will enter an unknown or metaphorical reality-based world. Now the question is, should I kill someone or take their physical reality away over my metaphorical reality-based beliefs? Especially if I don't have any clear answers. Obviously, I have to die first to find out what is on the other side of my death, or what my situation or reality will be. On top of all that, if I am a spirit, would I take swings at someone, punch, or chop their head off with my metaphorical sword? If we can't tell anything other than the personal lights out, why do we still keep sending each other to the other side? Yet our metaphorical God needs living, breathing human beings or hands in this physically real world to convert spirituality into physical actions, so everything can be physically meaningful. Looking at Egyptian history, people believed so deeply that they took their material things along. Don't forget, we have been robbing every tomb of Egyptian gods and kings, yet we still believe in the physicality of our metaphorical realities. It may seem that I don't believe in the afterlife or whatever is on the other side. Not at all, but I believe in keeping our metaphorical and physical realities separate. Learn all about their differences and keep those differences in mind at all times. In today's time, we literally need to add our new virtual realities to that count as well. We should all know what we are physically experiencing and what simply can or can't be explained. In other words, our metaphorical realities should not override our physical realities or be used as physical realities. In simple words, if we don't have our physical body, everything will be, or at least should be, a metaphorical reality. Since metaphorical realities can't be explained physically, they should not be the foundation of our justice systems, nor should they be used to rob someone of their physical reality. Remember, we have the ability to use free will, and we can also use our personal sense of justice. Normally, our personal problems start when our group politics takes over us individually and from within. So, we personally need to take charge and learn all about our realities. Since our metaphorical realities are sold to us as more important than our real and physical world, we individually should be aware of the politics behind them. Remember, in our religious settings, logic, science, and justice usually take a back seat to our political belonging. Always remember, our metaphorical worlds because we are all taught differently, have never been the same, clearly explained, or proven scientifically. Spillage of some chemicals in the blood tells us that we get physically influenced even by our political belonging. This means the way we think can dictate how we feel. So, if we feel from the thoughts, shouldn't our thoughts be harnessed to be a human being? Remember, as a human individual, we are supposed to have the ability to control our urges and emotions, whether they are created by nature or the politics of belonging. We become human beings because of our spirituality-related inhibitions. So, we individually should have the power to override our physical urges. This means that even if our political leaders use fiery speeches to get our juices flowing, those chemical-related issues are our personal issues. Logically, we are responsible for controlling the urges. Remember, we have all been equally blessed with free will and a personal sense of justice. Being human takes a lot more than just being a social creature. It takes becoming a CEO of our lives who can override and control those hormone-related physical urges. Interestingly, we are in the process of evolution, so maybe not in my lifetime, but in the future, we may learn to override our political belonging to our groups and think of belonging to humanity as a whole. The question is, if you don't understand it all, should you be killing others over God? Personally, I believe we hide the urge of revenge for the pain of our love loss and want to inflict that same pain on those who caused it. Usually, our resource, land, and love loss related conflicts are politically converted into religious conflicts because whenever religions get involved or exploited, wars can go on forever. This means our belonging groups know how they can have a steady supply of people who can be inspired to kill and die for their cause. These political tactics have been and are continuously used throughout history, and even today, we can't get away from them. This is because human beings are not evolved enough to understand emotions and related behaviors, so our politicians take advantage of our vulnerabilities. Since the era we are born into belongs to a trend called equal human individual rights and free speech, I am going to speak my mind because I believe my brain is designed to hold an ocean and space all rolled up in one. Yet my belonging group says, stay within the stream of your installed knowledge. Sure, that makes me question myself and my belonging group simultaneously. Politically, we don't want to let go of our ancestral beliefs. This means humanity is being torn apart by our political group belonging, which is limiting, yet our spiritual nature calls for putting an anchor in space to climb way beyond the insecurity-based political lines and boundaries created by our belonging groups. The problems faced by all of us are related to our politics of belonging, rather than our spiritual nature. If you always and honestly keep a spiritual thing like equal human rights in front of you, you will be willing to give and receive equal human rights. If you are spiritual, regardless of being a passionate believer of your belonging religion, you may make some concessions and adopt a live and let live attitude with compassion and love. Otherwise, you will be tainted or infected by the politics of belonging and lose your spirituality. In a spiritual and just world, things are straightforward, meaning there are no politically twisted truths or injustices. All our group superiority and related hate are politically instilled from the start. As human individuals, it is our responsibility to understand that doing to others what we wouldn't want done to us or our loved ones is a spiritual crime. Picture yourself in a time when other creatures saw you as food. That situation would automatically make you stick together for safety and survival. Now, fast forward to the modern era, and observe what is happening. Insecurity makes us all compromise to some degree. One way or another, most of us follow the laws of the land we live on without questioning. We tend to follow our traditions, customs, and even rituals to be part of our belonging groups, whether they make any sense or not. At an individual level, we often ignore the spiritual calls of our atom of autonomy and evolving nature. As social creatures, we can surpass our fear-related internal calls when it comes to helping others, which is why politicians try to touch us in that tender spot. Logically, we follow these so-called identities and loyalties because we have been taught to believe in our insecurities. Most of us are susceptible to influence, but safety or not, when it comes to our physical realities, all the politics of belonging and related loyalties are connected to our full stomachs. If it comes to our physical realities like survival, we should all come down from our sky-high political world and join each other on the ground of physical realities where we are all human beings without any political identity crisis. When it comes to love, a family member is as important as your community. If you pick your community over your loved one, you have a broken love triangle. This happens because you don't consider yourself the CEO of your life, and allow your own realities to be influenced. Your understanding of the mortality clock has been affected. If you worry unnecessarily and try to control things you have no control over, you need to look at your allotted time critically. You can live that way, but your happiness and contentment might be compromised by your own behaviors because you have followed your belonging group without questioning. Ask yourself, if God has given you a temporary visit, how would you want to live this life? Remember that you carry your own atom of autonomy within. You possess spiritual jewels like free will, a personal sense of justice, compassion, and love, among other abilities. After acknowledging this, you should adhere to the spiritual rule number 1, don't do to others what you don't like done to you or your loved ones. If you look down at your physical body or inner self, fix it. If you can't fix your identity crisis, try examining your political belonging critically to see if you have been politically brainwashed. If you feel stuck and buried under group belonging, you are stereotyping humanity according to what you have been taught to believe. This means all those political identities are robbing you of your real identity within a short visit. If your mullah, priest, religious leader, or politician can't rise above sexual scandal, think beyond the education you have been given, because that is what an evolving human being should do. Learn to live in the era you are born into, and remember today belongs to equal human individual rights. If you have been taught to believe that you are somehow better because of being born into or believing in a certain system, it's time to revisit that philosophy. Your spirituality should call for justice, and equal human rights are founded on justice. If your beliefs make you act like a bigot, prejudiced, or discriminatory, it's not their power but rather your spiritual weakness. If you bring God into it, that's even worse because now you are labeling God with it as well. Why would you want to live like that, knowing you are just visiting? If you believe in your metaphorical realities to guide you, at least pick the good stuff to create a positive picture to benefit your visit. If you kill each other over metaphorical or not clearly understood realities, logically, you have it all wrong because the purpose of having the knowledge of those metaphorical realities is to benefit you while visiting your physical reality. Robbing someone or yourself of your physical reality in the name of a metaphorical one has nothing to do with God or spirituality, and everything to do with the politics of belonging and your individual ignorance of misplaced realities. Understand your fast-ticking hand of the second or your circle-related story and the story of your unknown simultaneously because your second circle runs on the story of the world's political changes, like religions, isms, and evolution in human awareness of unknowns. The third circle, where even groups can't prevent things, includes natural disasters, life, death, God, and all our other unknowns. Now, should you try to control it all, and why? For some of us, it is destiny because humanity needs those individuals to set the bar higher so we all can evolve. One has to sacrifice their happiness and contentment to be one of those people. Humanity has no shortage of those people. If you are one of them, remember you are the CEO of your life and are choosing to spend your life visit for a cause. Regardless of what you think, if you don't choose to stand in your own corner, it's your choice. If you don't believe you have a choice, think about how God's world works. If you still don't understand, simply follow godly orders and evolve for God's sake because without our evolution, we have been and are still killing each other in the name of our political belonging. I don't have any problem with people believing or not believing in God. I wholeheartedly believe in God, spirituality, and equal justice for all. That is why I am writing this blog. My problems start with religious beliefs when they believe in doing injustice to a living, breathing human being yet claim to be a spiritual system. Since I believe a human individual is a physically working hand of God, I have a lot of respect for those who convert spirituality into physical actions. If religions claim to be spiritual systems and are godly yet commit spiritual crimes against each other's belonging individuals and justify their killing as God's orders, I draw my lines there and call a spade a spade. To me, all the killings have been and are there because of our groups, nations, and religious politics. That means they have been infected with the infection of political belonging to our groups. Remember, spirituality, justice, and God are universal and have nothing to do with anything belonging to group politics. Ever wonder why we have good people in all human societies regardless of religion? When our groups claim that the human individual is not important, they undermine human physicality, and that is simply an injustice. Most political groups don't acknowledge that as a spiritual crime. Political affiliations can often overshadow the essential role of the individual in the grand scheme of life. Even spiritual systems, including religions, are not immune to this influence, particularly when they elevate concepts like God and the devil as central figures. Despite their significance, both require the physical presence of humans to be effective and meaningful. Thus, if a religion preaches the irrelevance of individuals, it contradicts its own spiritual teachings. Our good and bad actions depend on human physicality to have real impact. For instance, if a spiritually good thought does not translate into physical action, it holds little value. Reciting sacred texts such as the Quran, Bible, or Torah is insufficient if not accompanied by action. A belief alone cannot satisfy a hungry stomach. Physical nourishment is necessary for survival and thought. We need both the physicality of humans and the spirituality of concepts like God and the devil to illuminate spiritual knowledge. One without the other is inadequate. If you place God and the devil at the top corners of a triangle with humans as the base, it underscores that without humans, neither good nor bad can take tangible form. Disrespecting or rendering humans irrelevant is politically motivated, and not spiritually justified. Spirituality and justice lose their purity when tainted by politics. Therefore, respecting human individuals as fundamental to spirituality is crucial. Spirituality begins with the individual, who physically manifests God's essence. Without individuals, there would be no collective body or meaning. The problem lies not in the individual or the body but in how we perceive this relationship. If you value the whole body over its cells, that's understandable. However, denying the importance of cells for political reasons is unspiritual. Spirituality and justice thrive when politics do not interfere, preserving their purity and value. To evolve from our traditions, customs, rituals, and political affiliations, we should embrace a genuine belief in God, spirituality, justice, and humanity. We must focus on earthly realities where justice should be for all individuals, not just groups. Living in the present allows us to understand and fulfill our responsibilities as individuals before engaging in metaphorical realms. Identity crises driven by political and religious groups are weaknesses that lead to injustice and the subjugation of individuals. These groups often prioritize their interests over individual rights, leading to inequalities and even oppression. Humanity has evolved beyond these outdated practices. We must break free from personal and political chains and assume our responsibilities as individuals. Comfort zones can be appealing, but not following our evolutionary nature leads to negative consequences, such as mental health issues and stagnation. It is destructive for both individuals and society as a whole. Understanding our evolutionary nature helps us avoid contributing to political savagery and injustice. Every individual is responsible for their actions. Groups, whether gangs, races, nations, or religions, are made up of individuals.